Don't just sit there and waste your precious time. When you want to do something, do it right away. Do it when you can. It's the only way to live a life without regrets. So we start off this story with Sonic on another carefree adventure, this time visiting a small island, as he calls it, a pleasant green meadow, which is the name called West Side Island. This is where we're introduced to Sonic's plane, the Tornado. At this point, the Tornado is a new thing in this series, and it's kind of strange that he has it in the first place, because as we know, Sonic is supposed to be the fastest thing alive, so him having a plane kind of makes it kind of confusing, because why does he have to do that? Couldn't he just run over lakes and stuff like that? But here he has a plane, so I kind of assume that he has to travel big areas and big wide open spaces that he can't usually do when he runs. So I think it makes a lot of sense and it works for that context. I mean, I'm kind of lazy, so I wouldn't be just running back and forth throughout everywhere I have to go. I would like to take a car or something because I cannot do that shit every day. I think it also kind of represents Sonic's more relaxed kind of style of living, because it kind of shows that he does like running, but that's not the only thing it does. It also describes in his character bio that he likes relaxing at beaches and stuff like that, so he isn't just a character who just loves to run everywhere at every time. No, he loves to run and go on adventures, but at the same time, he sometimes just wants to take a break and just relax and just ride his plane across to different areas instead of running there all the time. Which in my opinion, besides what a lot of people presume of him, actually makes him more interesting than most speedster characters who are just, I'm the fast guy, I gotta go fast all the time, and I'm so fast, so quick, so fast, so fast. Even that one Simpsons episode where they reference Sonic kind of has this idea where he's all fast and going all,
I'm gonna help your putting.
Just take it! Take it, take it, take it, take it, take it! Take it!
yeah, I find it to be a little weird and not really in context for the Sonic that we know in these stories where he seems clearly more relaxed. But of course, we'll see later in the story how Sonic is a more relaxed and kind of chill guy, so I think the Tornado does kind of represent that idea of Sonic does not have to be running all the time, and he's not always trying to go super fast and do super fast feats and stuff like that. Unlike in the American manual where it kind of says that Sonic, to kind of shows off his explosive speed just for a single second so he can leave Tails behind, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is where the cocky aspect comes from. Because it doesn't come from the American side, and I kind of wanted to just put it away as kind of him showing off or playfully, but it could just be kind of cocky on the American side, which is why I can see that perceived notion can be seen here and not in the Japanese side, because Sonic just seems more relaxed in this one. As the Tornado is landing on the island, it says that a suspicious glowing object disappears on the other side of the island, kind of showing that maybe someone is following him or something, I don't know. Then the story goes on to describe West Side Island as this phantom island, because it describes the distant past as being these people on the island using mysterious stones to develop their civilization to achieve prosperity and what they desired. But however, all of that prosperity came to nothing overnight when people tried to use the stones incorrectly, and the stones were sealed away somewhere in the island by the gods. And as we know, those stones are the Chaos Emeralds. The fact that they're here though is interesting. Maybe we'll talk about that in Sonic 3, who knows, it's just kinda weird, you know, it's just kinda weird, guys. But I like how this island kinda introduces the idea of gods to the Sonic world, kinda showing that this mystical world kinda has deities too that can kind of rule over the world and kind of judge people and different stuff like that. Kinda showing that this world has some type of uniqueness to it, not just being normal Earth. So I think it kind of makes sense that the gods here kind of saw the people doing bad things and they were kind of like, hey, that's not nice, and then shoved it into the earth or something. I'm assuming it's kind of like the weird fucking null space void thing that they had in the first game, but I assume it's probably different too. I don't know, do the special stages hold the same grounds they do in Sonic 1's story? I'm not sure, because it keeps talking about these distorted places inside of the island, but I don't know if that's the same here, because it just says that it was sealed somewhere by the gods, not that it was put in distorted island, but that it was sealed somewhere. Maybe that does mean a warp space, but I just kind of assume that some other way that the gods forced the emeralds to kind of hide. I don't know, maybe the ancient gods made signposts and that's where they put the emeralds, and I guess it was so technologically advanced that they were like, what do we do with this thing? Get it out! And they died. I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but maybe the signposts are kind of a way to just kind of transcend the time of where they sealed the emeralds or something like that. I don't know, make this world technologically and mystically advanced. I don't know, I'm just making it up as I go along. It's just video game logic at this point. It then describes that one day Sonic is just running around the island being carefree and everything, and then suddenly he kind of notices that someone is following him kind of creepily. When he turns around, he kind of sees there's a small fox, but the small fox is kind of shy, so he decides to hide behind a palm tree. But whenever Sonic starts running, the fox does his best to follow him, and Sonic by his own words specifically says this: "Well, I guess I'll let him do what he wants." Which is what he decided, not really caring about what's happening. Clearly he's okay with this little kid following him, which shows kind of Sonic's idea of not really thinking these things through and just being a very relaxed character. Again, kind of showing a clear contrast between the American manual and the Japanese manual, where the American manual decides that, oh, Sonic sees this guy is following him, and then he decides to show off and blast off at the speed of light or whatever. But in the Japanese, Sonic is just like, I'll let him do what he wants, and then he just continues running. He doesn't have any like boost of speed to show off who he is. No, he just continues being who he is. Showing off this character is very relaxed and not off-put by the fact that someone is following him, because clearly he's not doing any damage and he seems to be a little kid who's kind of shy. So he understands the situation and kind of lets him just follow him along throughout this entire story. I remember I got the most strangest thing in one of my comments where someone said that Sonic kind of has a character arc here where he goes from not caring and kind of seeing him as kind of a useless thing that's kind of following him to kind of seeing him as this person they can rely on and be capable with and stuff like that, which isn't really happening here. He kind of just lets him does what he wants and then he shows himself, and then Sonic's like, oh, okay, he's a good friend, and that's it. It's not like he's kind of changing from this in any way, because he's not really uncomfortable with the situation as shown by the story. This is clearly the idea of you just wiping this worry off his shoulder because it's not really doing anything, so he really doesn't care at this point. And this is where we get introduced into the small little character who is Miles Tails Prower. First name Miles, last name being Prower, which is supposed to be a pun on Miles Prower because, you know, Sonic and puns. But it says his real name is Miles Prower, his gender is male, his age is 8, his nickname is Tails. It says that he admires and respects Sonic, his head is full of thoughts of becoming like Sonic, he loves Christmas and mint candy, and as you can see, he has goggle eyes. He loves to tinker with machines and has invented many things. Driving a car or flying a plane is his biggest specialty. His favorite car is the Lotus Super 7. He's always chasing after Sonic. And it says when he was a little kid, everyone bullied him for his two tails, but thanks to Sonic, the two tails have become something of a sign of vitality. The manual then says after seeing Sonic come to the island, Miles has changed. He has made up his mind, and he says,
"He's so cool."
Well, I guess I'll let him do what he wants.
I want to be cool too!
After that point, he decides to chase after Sonic every day. So as you can clearly see here, this is where the idea that Miles is kind of the sidekick to Sonic, kind of the partner to Sonic, who clearly admires him because he's supposed to be such a young kid. Again, it's saying his age is 8 because guess what? He's supposed to be a kid who was inspired by Sonic and kind of gained some confidence after being bullied, and he keeps following Sonic, kind of getting more and more and more confident maybe. And I think that works very well for this character who's kind of having a little bit of a character arc. The fact that he loves driving cars and flying planes kind of shows that Tails and Sonic kind of have a connection in a different way that isn't just I want to follow Sonic, and that clearly makes their dynamic more unique, where it isn't a superhero and a sidekick kind of idea. It's two people who are friends and who are just kind of close in a certain way. The narrative is clearly trying to have Sonic and Tails be very good friends at the end of this story or during this story, clearly showing that they're kind of growing together and getting to know each other better than they did before. Because as we'll see in the future, Tails is kind of like the brother-like figure to Sonic, kind of that little brother that Sonic inspires and kind of makes him get better throughout the future. And I think it starts off here with these fundamental ideas. And if you've seen my Tails video on Tails' character, I actually described that Tails and Sonic aren't best friends, because as the simple fact kind of shows here, they are supposed to be more like brothers. It's even shown in a future manual that's actually leaked from a certain game in 2006, which is why I come from more of the idea that they are supposed to be brothers, not best friends. It even shows in how Tails admires Sonic in every way, because if you're friends with someone, you're not going to be that much inspired or admired to them because you're really not that close, or you're just really not that type of person, because most friends aren't just going to be inspired and want to do everything the same and want to follow him. No, they're clearly trying to show aspects of Tails being Sonic's little brother that Sonic grows to have in this story. It's even shown by the fact that it says he loves Christmas and mint candy. Now you may say it's a weird little thing, but there is a level in this game where it shows that there was supposed to be a Christmas zone in this game, which I find to be interesting because Sonic is supposed to be based off of Santa Claus and he's supposed to be born on Christmas Island. So Sonic clearly is supposed to be this thing that he loves kind of as a close brother kind of way, because they have a relationship with planes and Sonic kind of reminds him of Christmas in a lot of ways. And I think this is clearly trying to show that Sonic and Tails are more than just friends. They are basically the little brother doing his kind of crazy thing, trying to follow his brother, see what he does, and Sonic being the older brother doesn't really care and is clearly supposed to be more of a teenager in this aspect. And I think the narrative really shows that the tornado was made for these specific characters because they needed some way for Tails to be able to relate to Sonic, so Sonic can fly a plane and Tails loves planes. So at the same time they can kind of relate to that idea. And it also says that Tails has goggle eyes, which is supposed to mean the eyes are supposed to be very big and kid-like, but also that he can kind of fly a plane with his eyes, maybe kind of showing he has good eyesight like that. I don't know, it just shows these ideas of Sonic and Tails are kind of supposed to be like a very close kind of sibling kind of thing. It even shows how much Sonic means to Tails because it talks about how Mouse's personality brightens up and he becomes more bright, energetic, and positive. So before that he was very gloom and doom and very sad and stuff like that, but when he meets Sonic he brings this brightness out of him that he couldn't have had before, kind of showing that maybe like his life wasn't the same before meeting Sonic, kind of showing a more drastic change than you'll find with any other character in this series, kind of showing that they've kind of become family. This point is even supported by the fact that it says Sonic doesn't seem to be paying attention to Miles, but he's actually looking at him sideways, clearly showing that while Miles is following him, Sonic is kind of looking back, seeing if he's okay, seeing if he's a little concerned and seeing what's happening with him, kind of showing that like, hey, it's kind of weird, but I don't really care, but also I'm trying to see if he's okay because what's going on. Clearly showing that Sonic has a very caring emotion for Tails and just for his friends in general. It then says that one afternoon Miles found a beautiful plane on the beach. He's over there clearly admiring it, seeing how sleek it is and how beautiful it is because he loves machines, and then he goes around to the other side and stops in shock because he sees that Sonic is clearly taking a nap under the wing of the other side of the plane, and then Tails kind of gently turns around and walks away kind of sneakily just so he doesn't wake up Sonic, but still kind of admiring the plane in a little way. I wouldn't say he's specifically geeking out about it, but he is very much admiring it in a clearly quiet way since he hasn't woken up Sonic yet, but also he's just looking at it in amazement, and then he sees Sonic just under the plane and is like, whoa. But as he's moving back to the other side of the tornado, suddenly a giant explosion happens and there's just things falling down and the entire island is just burning up in flames, and Miles is just in shock by the situation to the point where he has to hide under the plane and kind of cower a little bit, kind of not really seeing what's happening. But then suddenly we see that Sonic gets up and he says, "Damn it, Eggman." As he says that, he kicks the sand from under his feet and then goes in charging after Dr. Eggman. But then suddenly the unthinkable happens. Miles for some reason has a premonition in his mind and he starts unconsciously running after Sonic's back, showing that Sonic unconsciously really made Miles start running face forward into danger that in the past he would kind of run away from when he got bullied. Showing that Miles, after a few days of being with Sonic, can literally charge into danger just to help him out, when he couldn't do that before even a little bit due to his fear of being bullied and how he was insecure about his own two tails. But Sonic brings out that confidence in him that he didn't have before, kind of showing that Sonic does have impact over the people he meets just by being himself, not even being some mystical person who tells them the moral of the story or something like that. No, he just acts like himself, and that literally gets the job done and changes people unconsciously sometimes. It's not even physically or something that he has to tell them verbally, it's just something he can do unconsciously. And I think that's amazing for Sonic as a character, that he can just be this force of influence just by being himself, and it's just very natural that comes off of him. So back to the story, we actually hear some evil laughing that sounds like this. It says in the forest a familiar, very vulgar, high-pitched laugh was echoing, and of course it's Dr. Eggman. And then he says this.
I finally found it. The island where the Chaos Emeralds lie. the Phantom West Side.
It's a good thing I've been chasing after Sonic. Yeah, that doesn't really make sense. Why are you chasing after Sonic when he isn't chasing after the emeralds? I get you may have known where the island was, but why are you specifically chasing after Sonic and not chasing after the emeralds and you just coincidentally met up with Sonic? But I guess it works, but it kind of makes no sense because Sonic wasn't looking for the emeralds, he was just kind of relaxing. So did you just stalk him and just like follow him? Maybe he did it because Sonic is connected to the Chaos Emerald somehow, as he's seen in the first game, so he follows them here in the second game because of that same reason? Maybe, but that doesn't really make sense. Like, it says he'll be waiting for him, kind of like he's waiting for him to come and get the emeralds first. So he could maybe actually know that Sonic is getting the emeralds from this island. And I'm gonna just let Eggman continue his monologue before I get to the last part of the story.
Now I can complete my ultimate weapon, the Death Egg. I'll be waiting for you, Sonic. This time, I'm going to defeat you and get all the Chaos Emeralds. And then I, Dr. Eggman, will be the conqueror of the world.
And then it says that the actors are all here. The story of adventure and excitement is about to begin once again. Now before we get into the game itself, I do want to talk about some parts of what Eggman says here, of course, with the whole thing of him making his ultimate weapon, the Death Egg, which is not specifically stated to do anything very special. But I assume it shoots a giant laser because of the Force, I think. But yeah, so he has the Death Egg and he's going to use the Chaos Emeralds to finally defeat Sonic and take over the world, which makes sense for Dr. Eggman. But the weird thing about him following Sonic is still pretty weird to me. Maybe the story was just wanted a reason for Eggman to be there and they kind of forgot that Sonic isn't chasing after the emeralds, so they just kind of retroactively tried to make up something, I guess. But overall, it's still a good setup for the villain and what he's trying to do here. The same thing, conquer the world with the emeralds, but this time of course on a different island, and this time trying to make an even bigger weapon, the Death Egg, which is going to space. Did I put an echo there? I think I did. So then we go through the game itself, which you can see throughout most of the game, Tails is just following Sonic through these levels, which gradually get more and more different and technological as we go along. Clearly kind of going through that same idea as Sonic 1 with the environmental ideas of, we have these normal little grassy like areas, and then we have the more technological areas where Eggman is clearly taken over and is clearly claiming that as his own, until we literally get to the final boss. But this one actually does something a little different, which is kind of good and kind of bad. If you're talking about for gameplay wise, Sky Chase kind of fucking sucks and kind of breaks all the pacing to it. But then if you get to the bosses, you can see as we go through Sky Chase, we can actually see we're actually going more towards Eggman's Wing Fortress. As we get to Wing Fortress, we literally see that Tails gets shot down in Sonic's plane, and Sonic has to jump off and go after Dr. Eggman as Tails is slowly falling down, maybe to be in danger. But Sonic can't stop it right now because he has to go and stop Dr. Eggman. I can see Sonic here being kind of a drastic situation where he kind of finds out that Tails can fly planes, and that's really cool. And then after that, literally see him get shot down and Sonic can't really do anything but go after Dr. Eggman, but maybe Tails tells him he's okay or something like that, kind of showing he has confidence that he'll be fine, and Sonic kind of takes that to word and goes after Dr. Eggman. I don't know, I'm just kind of interpreting what's happening here because we have no dialogue at this point. But of course he goes through Wing Fortress and then he breaks Eggman's final barrier, and as he gets through there, we can see that Tails kind of finishes his character arc here. He went from being a shy kid who got bullied and who couldn't really fight for himself to being a kid who could fight alongside Sonic and also show off his unique abilities that him and Sonic have, which is why they showed off the specific fact of him being a tinkerer, which clearly shows in this part of the tornado's description where it says the tornado is Sonic's beloved plane, the tornado. At normal speed, the tornado can only reach 450 kilometers high, but by installing a custom booster engine tuned by Miles, it can fly past the speed of sound despite being a propeller-driven aircraft, clearly showing that Tails in his tinker genius is able to make this plane better, showing off how confident and capable he is with his tinkering ideas and with his two tails, which he uses to actually catch up with Sonic as propellers. And literally the simple fact that he made the tornado just as fast as Sonic clearly shows that Tails is a fucking genius at planes and stuff, and shows that he's really good at it and he's a very trustworthy character to help Sonic on his adventures. So Tails in his tornado helps Sonic get up to the Death Egg to be able to catch onto it and go off on his own, clearly showing that he can't catch up all the way and do what Sonic does, but he can help out in the best way that he can. Already showing how capable he is in his speed, how capable he is in destroying Eggman robots along with Sonic, and now showing what makes him unique in his fact that he is a tinkerer and can fly the tornado and cars, all basically culminating in his finishing of the character arc before the final battle. And the fact that he couldn't catch up with Sonic kinda shows this idea that Tails still has a long way to go to catch up to his big brother. So then we see Sonic running through the Death Egg to catch up to Dr. Eggman, when suddenly we get the appearance of Mecha Sonic, which is supposed to be kind of this robotic version of Sonic, clearly doing all the same moves that Sonic does by rolling into a ball, but he has more spikes and does it in a more robotic way that is not natural to Sonic, kind of showing that nature versus technology kind of idea is kind of going against each other in this final bout. Kind of having that more human, more natural, more realistically nature kind of idea. Sonic here fighting the more roboticized kind of evil Mecha Godzilla robot who's going after Sonic due to what Eggman created. Kind of showing how early in the story Eggman says he was following Sonic and is waiting for him to be here so he can defeat him. So he made this robot in the view that the superior counterpart that he made, that he can control, will be the one to defeat Sonic. But as he fails this, the battle isn't over yet. We actually have Eggman having a one last go with Sonic, which in this game is called Death Egg, but it also has 3 other names. One of those being Robo Eggman or Robot Eggman, and the other being the Death Egg Robot, which I think the Death Egg Robot works the most because it is the Death Egg Robot and it does kind of combine those 2 ideas. Because in Sonic Jam they call it Robo Eggman or Robot Eggman, so combining the Death Egg and then Robot kind of makes that more of a linear way and makes it make more sense as the robot itself, because it is from the Death Egg but it's also the Death Egg Robot. I wish it did have more of the Death Eggman Robot or something, but that's too much and too convoluted to really say, so for this I'm just going to call it the Death Egg Robot. And in this entire battle, you can see that Sonic is in his base form, because we'll see a little bit later he does have a super form to fight this robot in. But clearly, as being described from the original manual, if you remember, it says that Eggman thinks that Sonic is his rival, but he could never actually beat Sonic. So clearly in this part of the story it is clearly showing to us that Sonic in his base form is even going to defeat this final boss of this entire story, because Sonic is just that more capable than Eggman is. And Eggman does not see the light of his day because he is too cocky and is too arrogant to even see that Sonic is clearly more superior to him. We can maybe see later on that maybe Super Sonic may need to do a little bit more in a fight with him, but for now we can see that he is clearly unmatched because Sonic has the Chaos Emeralds and he just has a giant robot. So Dr. Eggman is kind of at an unfair disadvantage because he has none of the emeralds, because Sonic already took them all before this point. After probably many times you've gotten your ass whipped beaten by this boss, I have too, you actually defeat the Death Egg Robo and you chase Eggman off of the Death Egg before it explodes. This is where I'm gonna do something a little bit more different, because unlike Sonic 1, this one has a good and bad ending. The good and bad ending do kind of have weirder aspects that kind of make more potential for story purposes, so I want to talk about both of them in this context. We're not going to say that one is the bad ending and that's needed. No, we're just going to say that they're both the good ending for this purpose, because this idea is really interesting when I hear about the story. Because a lot of people, even Pariah, as you know I am a big fan of Pariah, has the idea of Sonic kind of floating down like in the bad ending, but this time he gets caught by Tails on a tornado, and then Tails the one to take Sonic back with all the Chaos Emeralds, which I actually do think is a very good ending, and it makes a lot of sense for what Tails went through in this story and how Tails has caught up to Sonic in his own way and has showed off who he truly is. So having him at the end catch him with his plane after Tails is clearly concerned would make more sense, and I actually do kind of agree with that. If we had that as the good ending, I actually would have loved it, because it would have also made as much sense as the other ending, which I actually have more of a personal love for, which I'll describe now. Because as it goes, the Death Egg explodes and everything goes in a big bang and everything is gone, and then we see that a big white light covers you as Sonic is running off, so we don't know if he's dead or alive at this point. But we can clearly see that Tails, with all the animals as they're kind of celebrating, he goes to check up on Sonic. He goes in his tornado and flies up to see where Sonic is, and then you can see that Super Sonic comes down and starts flying next to them, and we can see the end title screen has them flying off together. I find that to be the most coolest and interesting thing for Sonic, because as we've seen throughout this entire story, Sonic was very much being what his usual archetype is, which is the flat character arc. In being the flat character arc, Sonic, just by being himself, literally influences Tails throughout this entire story. So when we get to this point where Sonic is Super Sonic and Tails doesn't catch him, we just see the Chaos Emeralds put Sonic in his giant yellow body of a god, and he basically uses that to save himself. And we can see as Tails coming in, he sees Sonic as this big glowing thing just coming down at him as a strong, powerful being that we haven't seen before from Sonic. We can see from Tails' first time, we can see that Sonic has a special connection to the Emeralds, and that connection is what saves Sonic in the end. Not Tails, but because of who Sonic is, he became this super godlike form and is now shining down, meeting up with Tails, and Tails is still following after Sonic, who is now a shining goalpost, and we end the game that way. And I find it to be such a better ending in my opinion, because it shows off how Sonic is represented in this story. As we'll see in future stories, this form does represent more than what we just see as it being this Super Saiyan ripoff. While it is a Super Saiyan ripoff, you also have to understand what is the fundamental ideas of the Super Saiyan itself and how Sonic kind of pushes that later in the future and in this story. Because if we look at the story, we can see how Goku kind of has that same idea. We've been seeing in the Frieza saga how Goku has kind of been pushed to be this legend of the legendary Super Saiyan, how Vegeta was kind of pushing that he was legendary Super Saiyan and how he would defeat Frieza with his own hands. But then Vegeta kind of becomes vulnerable and sees how Goku is actually the Super Saiyan who's going to defeat Frieza, and we can see how that kind of leads to torment in Frieza's mind, because he's always kind of feared of this idea of the Super Saiyan, and now seeing that Goku has become that because of the death of his friend Krillin, he has unlocked this special form that has been destined for years and has been feared by the main villain, kind of showing how Goku is kind of this person who embodies the Saiyan race, who embodies what it is to be high class, what it means to be low class, what it means to gain this ability and become stronger than you are, but also caring for the people you love. And he doesn't really change during this part, he just kind of shows off who he is as Son Goku. Even if I personally think the line in this part of the manga kind of makes it seem weird on how he's explaining this thing like, I'm the legend that you feared, blah 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 blah, and I'm Son Goku, whatever. The scene still represents that Goku is this shining light that is going to take down Frieza in the name of Vegeta, in the name of the Saiyan race, in the name of just evil, and being that good who will conquer evil and do the right thing because he cares for people and cares for his friend who literally just died right in front of his face. He may have lost a little bit of his sanity with it, but he's enraged because of how much he cares for this person, and that is what is the shining light between him, because he doesn't just go full on angry and become this angry bad person. No, he's still himself even though he is super angry. And I can see that same idea here with Sonic, except he's not angry here. Sonic feels like the Chaos Emeralds are kind of bringing out this pure energy out of Sonic that is becoming this very shiny, glowy form that he can fly with, that's showing off that Sonic has been kind of enhanced in who he is from his inner self and is being shown off to Tails, and is still showing how much Tails needs to learn and how much Tails needs to be around Sonic, because Sonic is the one who influences who he'll become in the future, not something that he is already caught up to. It also shows in a way that Sonic is pure of heart like Goku is, but with this context of future stuff, he has a heart of gold. With these ideas of pure of heart and heart of gold, it shows that Sonic is a caring character just like Goku, and in that idea of being pure, they're able to unlock this form, which I don't think he should know how to do that and how it works like that, but overall be able to unlock this form that shows off their pure self, which is the golden embodiment of Super Sonic or Super Saiyan Goku. And it also shows to Dr. Eggman in a different way from Frieza, because how Dr. Eggman wants to control the Chaos Emeralds and wants to take over the world and use it to defeat Sonic. Sonic doesn't use it to defeat Eggman, he uses it to save himself and to land safely with Tails with the Chaos Emeralds. Just like how Goku with the Legend of the Super Saiyan is doing it for pure intentions because of the people he cares for, because of the people he wants to protect, because of the people he couldn't protect, and all of that kind of builds up in a rage that goes against Frieza, who relies on no one and kind of sees him as something to slide past him. And Eggman kind of sees it in that same way, where he doesn't really care about the planet, but he cares about what he wants his ideal world to be, while Sonic cares about the world as it is. So Super Sonic and that idea with Super Saiyan Goku is what enhances this part of the story and shows Sonic as a shining beaming light for everyone, including Tails. So now that we have all that mumbo jumbo out of the way, let's actually talk about where I'm going to rank this story. For this one, can I get another drum roll please? 16 out of 20. I know this is very much a shocker compared to Sonic 1, which is literally at number 18. Yeah, it's very shocking, but it makes sense in my brain because Sonic 2 has so much going on and it kind of represents what I feel the classic games are supposed to be. We'll of course have other aspects show up in other parts of these stories and other games, but overall this does kind of show what Sonic does represent in the future of his later games and just now, and I think it works very well, and it does show off how Sonic is as a character, being a flat character arc. While I enjoy the first one for being kind of a simple adventure of Sonic defeating Dr. Eggman and Sonic protecting nature and all that, but now we actually have a representative of nature and us as people, which is supposed to be Tails. As we can see with Tails, Tails is kind of this shy person who doesn't stand up for himself, and he's clearly supposed to be 8 years old, a very young point in his life where you aren't usually able to do the most. But as Sonic shows Tails throughout the entire story, Tails can be whatever he wants and does it at a great degree, just like how we can do whatever we want to protect the planet, and Sonic is that shining beacon to help us get to that point in protecting the planet and just being our best selves. In Sonic just being this video game character who impacts us in a more ethereal way, in a more magical way that isn't just, hey, do this thing and be a good person. No, he does it by being himself and by influencing others around him, and I think that makes for great storytelling with Sonic. I also think Tails is supposed to represent the kids playing this game too, which I think actually also enhances the point of what he's adding to this and how Sonic is supposed to impact kids who play these games. Now, this isn't the most complex story ever, but I think it's really good and really does grasp what Sonic's story should be about. Now, it doesn't mean that because the game is super old, I can't say that it could be more visually told, could be more vocally told, and could be more explained better, because a lot of it is we have to be explained through the manuals, but that's just due to the time, so I can't really make that a problem. That's why I find the story to be so great, because at the time it really does show what Sonic is about as a story, and it really does show how that works in Sonic's universe, and it actually does have Sonic do something more narratively instead of just being more thematically, and that's it. While there is a plot in the first one and a theme, there isn't much of a story going on here. But in Sonic 2, there is a whole story going on that is being shown to us through the manuals and through the gameplay that shows us about being confident in ourselves and about taking action, about showing off who we are and also protecting the planet. Kind of showing that idea of nature versus technology in a way where the technology can kind of help out nature too. In Tails being a representative of us, because most character arcs that go through a positive change are supposed to represent us and what we can learn in the story. And it shows that the main theme of the story is to have confidence in yourself and to be who you are to the best degree. And I love that about this story, and that is why it is number 16. It could fall down later in the stories once I get to the rest of them, but for now it is up there in number 6, which is very close to the top. Not my top 5, but it's clearly in my top 10, which clearly shows that there's something really good about it. So for now, it's 6 out of 10. And now that we're done with that and we're at the end of the video, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys next time. See you!